you have written down what your personal war right now is. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tillie Lewis, why would a Naval Postgraduate School meeting care one hoot about the history of Tillie Lewis? I'm about to tell you. And as Toastmasters, these are things that we need to do when we're speaking. We have a purpose, and my purpose is to initiate those of you who have already not been initiated into the idea of what Tillie Lewis and who she was. Now, I have chosen the battles she fought, and the concentric circle, you can't change your answer now. She chose one thing from the time she was little. This is Tillie. This is Tillie in 1900. She is 4 years old. She lives, not in this particular unit, they didn't take pictures. This is what Tillie Lewis lived in Brooklyn, New York in 1896 until she went off to the Ziegfeld Follies, much to the horror of her very Orthodox Jewish father. Not happy that she took off and ended up wearing nothing but a smile and a couple of feathers. But she did that because her war, her battle, would be, at this age and throughout her life, personal poverty. Personal poverty. She never, ever varied. She didn't worry about the fact in 1896 how many women voted for president. None! It wasn't even, it couldn't even be imagined. There were some gals that were wealthy that were walking around with signs and banners and doing things. Tillie had nothing. She absolutely positively had no hope for the future except that which she carried within her. And what was her goal? To not be poor. That was it. She had no idea whatsoever how she was going to get there. None. But, like many of our young people today, maybe the stage would get her out of poverty. Turned out, she wasn't any good. Oops. But she was adorable, she was cute, and she met the likes of every big name in that era on the stage. Fanny Brice, Eddie Cantor, Durante, the Marx Brothers. She met everybody. You might not even know who those people are now, but some of us remember. These were some of the people at the end of her life. At the end of her life, so she succeeds. I'm telling you the end first. This is Moshe Dayan, and this is Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. This is Tillie, later in her life. She is assisting them, the poor little girl from Brooklyn. She's assisting them in growing agriculture in Israel. They called her up and said, hey, how did you take this tomato? The book is called Tillie Lewis, the Tomato Queen. She had no idea she was going to get into tomatoes. But I'll tell you how that happens. But again, her war was on poverty, personal poverty, and she ends up doing this. So she goes from here to there, from there, and does that amazing thing. She is in Rome. She's sitting next to the guy from Turkey. This is the Global Food Summit in Rome. This is Hubert Humphrey, our vice president. Democrat, right? She was a Republican. She never told anybody that. She didn't care. She didn't care because what was her goal? To not be poor. Democrat, Republican, who cares? Are you going to buy my product? Which we'll get to in a second. But again, the big deal is what her goal was is to not be poor. How she gets there is another matter. This is the governor of California. This is Groucho Marx. This is Jimmy Durante. On and on and on. She knew everybody. And it started off back at Ziegfeld, where she met these people. She wasn't any good, but she knew how to connect. She knew how to connect. And she knew something else that you need to remember in your battles as you're going along. The people you meet along the way who help you are your true goal. It's not a cliche. It's not a cute little thing to say. It's the gosh honest truth. Piglet said, it's not the leaves that are leaving, it's the leaves that are coming. She prepared for the leaves that were coming, always. And she kept those magical leaves that were fabulous, like the people that helped her. Obstacles. Along your path, you will have obstacles. Anybody have an obstacle in here? One or two along the way? Maybe, maybe. I don't see a hand, so I guess no. But Tillie had an obstacle. She's got 1896 Brooklyn, and then there's the Ziegfeld. She's not any good. I already told you that. World War I comes along. This is not a good thing for anybody in the United States or in the world, right? And then these guys come home and they have what? What are they carrying with them besides their knapsacks? The flu. She gets it, along with most of the world. But she survives. And while she's lying in bed surviving, she comes up with the idea that people are really hungry. She's getting well, and people are starving, not just for food, but for health food. So she starts thinking in that recovery room, in her bed, about food and how to create better, healthier food. And she starts to mess around with that and develops an idea regarding Italy and tomatoes and tomato products and bring it to the United States. But she doesn't have the power to do much about it at this point in time. But she's off and running. She meets an Italian who assists her. The book tells you the whole story, so you'll have to read that. Along comes his passion and his love and his romance. Maybe she'll get married, right? She's all excited. She's going to get married. Well, his wife and 7 kids objected. And he's Catholic. So there's that. So that's not ever going to happen. But that doesn't stop her either. And her husband didn't seem to mind, so who are we to judge? So she goes into the stock market with him because she has studied, she's done everything she can to not be what? To not be poor. So she goes and she studies the stock market, and she becomes one of the best stock brokers in New York. Then that little crash comes, a little bit of an obstacle for her. A little bit of an obstacle, but the boyfriend's into agriculture. He's got those tomatoes. The world is starving. We are now in bread lines. We're in this is the 1930s. Another bit of an obstacle for the world. Tillie says, so, what can I do to overcome this? What can I do? She never sat down for 1 second and cried about it. Not once. She was too busy. She had to not be poor. So, Hoover signed the tariff bill. Anybody worried about that tariff bill going on right now? Everybody, oh God, tariff. This was a 50% tariff. Not a 15%, not an 80%, 50% tariff. Hoover signs the bill. It's called the Smoot-Hawley tariff. Tillie goes, yes! Because she's an American. She goes to Italy with the boyfriend. She gets all of the product, the Pomodoro San Marzano tomato, brings it back to where she sees it will probably grow in the Mediterranean climate in California, in the Sacramento, Stockton area. She grows that sucker, and she becomes the president of Flotil Tillie Lewis Foods. Based upon the fact she said, I'm an American, I'm doing this thing. So she goes from that poor little girl to a wealthier little girl in the cheese. Brings this back during the Smoot-Hawley tariff because the Italian guy can't. Right? Tariff. Against the foreigners. She's an American. Makes her rich. She's rich. And she's hiring Americans during the Great Depression, giving them fabulous, real deal jobs. Because she's been prejudiced against because she's a woman, because she's Jewish, because of all the other things that she has to deal with, she hires on a humanitarian, humanist level. She doesn't care who you are, what you look like, what gender you are. She hires everybody, so naturally the police come in and arrest her. The FBI's looking at her because what is this? And they called her the Jew broad. I apologize to anybody who's offended, but tough. But that's what they called her, the Jew broad. She didn't care. Call me names, but buy my products. Flotel. Buy Flotel. She didn't care. Then that war comes along. She got World War II. The Second World War II hit. She lost her Japanese workers, and she loved her Japanese workers. Later on in life, and I won't tell you completely about this, she gets a huge award from them. She says, as she's crying as they're being taken away, she said, I will hire you back the second this is over, and it'll be over. The second it's over, you know, you're mine. You're coming back. Please, please, please. Don't give it a second thought. And she did. She followed through. Meanwhile, she had a group of ladies take off the can labels that she already had, and she drew out a little plan. She made them look like military. She wasn't part of the military at the time. But look at those labels. That's a real deal label for Flotel. For Flo, for Fuller, the guys or the boyfriend, and Till for Tillie. So she puts this on. She sends it out. The government sees this and says, hey, we want those in every single K ration. And she just knew that. She knew that would happen. And she did that. She's always thinking next because she didn't want to be poor. People start saying, well, but that's built by a woman. The company's built by a woman. We don't care about a woman. So she says, I'm going to do my whole ad campaign with me, herself, because she's adorable, in every single advertisement possible, and said, the reason you should buy my product is because I'm a woman. I care about your table. I care about what you're going to pay. I care about these things. She didn't have any workers, so she bought buses. And she brought them in. She fed them. She kept them on campus. We call that now. You got that all over. What they're doing now? She had daycare. She did all that stuff to make sure that her employees were happy and easy and happy to come. There you are. War's over. She turns the company, what next, into a place to grow asparagus for penicillin. She can't get pineapple because Hawaii's been kind of damaged just a little smidge. So she buys a couple of army ships and has a plant on the army ships in Mexico. What's next? She's not going to be poor. Meanwhile, the penicillin thing goes really well, so she realizes having better product, so she becomes the first laboratory within a food company to make sure that she could, and that's her, I put the tomato there, that cute. So she's now proving to the world that this woman, this Jewish broad, she is the cleanest, best kept secret in the food market. Meanwhile, she knows America's gotten fat. America's gotten fat. From poverty and deprivation to fat. This lady, Lillian Corazon, her husband divorced her because that's what could happen. And the judge said, yes, you can have the divorce because your wife gained 53 pounds since you got married. They came up with a song called She's Too Fat for Me. Lillian's trial made the papers. Tillie paid attention. She put Lillian on a diet. Lillian lost the weight on Tillie's new diet product called the Tillie Lewis Tasty Diet. Lillian lost the weight and told her husband to get lost. Tasty Diet. She made sure she went back to all of her friends. These were originally the Brooklyn Dodgers. They're now the Red Sox. They're busy enjoying Tasty Diet. She goes to Rocky Marciano, the heavyweight fighter. So she has him busy enjoying. It's a knockout, says the ad. It's a knockout, Tasty Diet. So pay attention. Whatever you wrote on that paper, can you make that your lifetime goal to not be poor, and you end up with that, or whatever it is, whatever your thing is. Hers was to not be poor, to find wealth. She found tremendous wealth. Her wealth was massive. Mansions, furs, this. Plus, the entire way, she gave back. The entire way, everybody she touched, every single soul, she never forgot who helped her, including her employees. Her employees did fabulous. They had jobs for life. She ended up feeding the world. And that was just a byproduct of Tillie making sure that Tillie was no longer going to be what?
Or.
She wasn't going to be poor. From here to the tomato queen, feeding the world, she won a war. I pray you do the same. Does somebody have a battle they would like to share with us? Is that enough? Yes, ma'am.
So interestingly enough, mine is building my own business here, so, yeah.
Is there anything that you saw today that might help you?
Yeah, just knowing that someone else has done what I wanna do. So my goal is to build my business enough to hire local people, to hire the people that can't afford to live here. Because the pricing, the housing, everything's too high. And having a minimum wage level that would afford them to live here comfortably and not have to leave the area. So
Okay.
watching her do that makes it seem like in the middle of all that was going on, she could do that, so I could do that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. But keep that focus where you're at. Keep that focus where you're at. What is the most interesting thing you thought that I just said about this business speech? What do you think? Was there anything you thought was? Yes, Chris.
That she overcame World War I, World War II, and the Depression.
Well,
Tough time.
yes, indeed. But did she actually overcome it? Don't mean to argue with you. Did she overcome those, or did she take advantage of?
She took advantage of that situation.
Right. So, do you think perhaps at the time other people went, "Woe is me! I can't function because there's a war. I can't deal with it. Oh my goodness!" and sat down in a puddle of snot, dare I say, and not function? They're paralyzed by the fear. That happens to us. We get paralyzed by that fear. We get absolutely paralyzed by what's going on, our obstacles, these terrible things that happen to us. I even left out the fact that her mother died of tuberculosis about 2 years after the baby picture you saw of her. She was horrified, but she wasn't going to be poor. No. Yes?
I have another question. Are any of Tillie's products available today?
They are not. Once Tillie passed away in 1977, the company was sold in one of those massive Wall Street monster things, but it was taken over. But nobody could touch her business prior to her death. She was such a powerful entity. They called her, she had bosses, but she was the boss. They were kind of afraid of her.
Why do you think she didn't bother to leave a prepared successor?
She did leave a sort of prepared successor with selling the company to Ogden Corporation, which was massive. So she became the first woman on a stock market exchange and a board. So she was the first female to actually have a key to a main, Ogden Corporation of ships and that, all kinds of things. She was the first person to do this. She was in her 80s at the time, and she was tired, so she was done, yes.
What happened to the boyfriend?
What happened to the boyfriend? He died in 1937. She gave a fabulous funeral for him at the same place that, oh gosh, a couple of major stars, including Jacqueline Kennedy, were buried at. So a great big deal. And she kindly had to fess up that she was not in fact married to him, which surprised most of America. They thought that she was indeed, but she did give credit to Mrs. Delgaiso in Italy. But Mrs. Delgaiso got the body and had the funeral in Naples at this massive cathedral that she just outdid Tillie big time. But even then, Tillie's crying over in her soup, in her tomato soup as it were, and met up with Delgaiso's brother, and that's when she started buying the company in 1937. Because who's coming? Mussolini. And she knew it. So she saw World War II starting to happen. Any other questions? Will you fight your war on a different level, thinking, if I fight 15 wars, if I'm going to be worried about this, and the other, you're not going to get that one thing done. that one major thing, that one major focus, that should be what you think about. Find that one focus that's going to change your life, make your quality of life fabulous beyond belief. And everything else is germane to that.
Will this be made into a featured film, or is it in the
We are
works?
looking at a feature film. I'm so glad you asked. And the Smithsonian Institution will be having Mrs. Lewis as an exhibit summer 2020. So that's really exciting for me and for Mrs. Lewis. I do appreciate it, and Madam Toastmaster.